The brass was already rattling the walls when I lit the last candle along the bar. The smoke curled into ribbons that caught the low lamplight, giving the room its usual haze, half glamour, half camouflage. To outsiders, it was just another prohibition joint, but to us three cousins, it was survival stitched with rhythm. Clara kept the booking steady, Ruth handled the till like a hawk, and me, I poured drinks fast enough to drown suspicion. We moved like clockwork, always listening for the tick that meant trouble. Tonight, that tick was set for 9 sharp, when Inspector Thibodeau promised he'd drop by. His smile at noon had carried the weight of shackles. The brass shuffled in their corner, trumpets already gleaming with spit and sweat. One of the saxmen, a thin fellow with clever eyes, slid a folded sheet into the pile of music. I only noticed because it slipped halfway out as I set down fresh matches. My fingers brushed it, and a scrap of ink caught my eye. The lyrics looked ordinary: "River runs, lover comes," until the spacing tugged at me. The letters on every third line spelled raid. My throat closed. This wasn't poetry. It was a warning. I tucked the sheet under the cash drawer, pressing my palm to the wood as though I could still the racing underneath. 9 o'clock, I whispered. The clock on the back wall ticked with stubborn cheer, its hands just past 7. That gave us 2 hours. 2 hours to keep the inspector from shutting down the only place where we could breathe, and the only place our marriages, silent, hidden, necessary, could survive in the shadows. Clara strolled past, her sequins catching a lamp flare. "You look like you seen a ghost." Maybe I did. I slid a bottle across the bar, felt the cool glass bite into my fingers, grounding me. All around us, laughter lifted in broken bursts, glasses clinking against bootleg gin's bitter tang. Outside, a trolley screeched down the street. Inside, we played our own gamble with every note. Ruth leaned in, smelling of clothes and ledger dust. "He'll come. He always does. But we got till 9. I nodded, though the lyric sheet in my pocket burned hotter than a cigarette I refused to light. Our goal was simple: survive another night. But I knew already nothing about tonight would be simple. By 8, the bar swelled with sweat and perfume. The mayor's nephew leaned against the piano, pretending to know jazz. Bootleggers in sharp suits lined the back rail. We danced on a knife edge, pouring and smiling, while under the floorboards a different operation churned. Clara nudged me toward the trap door with a crate. The inspector had arrived early, leaning tall in the doorway like he owned the air. His hat brim shadowed a smirk. While Ruth entertained him with talk of new imports, Clara and I heaved barrels of whiskey through the trapdoor, our palms slipping on damp oak. The cool underground air wafted up, thick with the musk of earth and wet stone. Above, the piano hit a bright run, masking the scrape of barrels against the ladder. Every thud echoed in my spine. If he heard, if anyone heard, it was over. "Careful," Clara hissed, as one barrel nearly crushed my fingers. We shoved the lid back down, smoothed our dresses, and swept onto the dance floor with feigned ease. "Inspector," Clara sang, pulling him into a clumsy spin. The room cheered. I slipped behind the bar, heart pounding in rhythm with the drums. Ruth counted tips with quick hands, but her frown deepened. "This page," she whispered, holding up a loose slip from the ledger. It was a balance sheet, misfiled, showing payouts to someone not on our list. The name scribbled at the bottom curled like a snake. H. LeBlanc. Not one of ours. Someone had been skimming, maybe feeding the inspector. Before I could respond, disaster struck in glitter form. Clara's ring slipped loose during her performance, catching the eye of a woman in pearls near the front. "I know that crest," the woman whispered, too loudly. "Isn't that the Devereux family?" Clara froze mid-spin, and the inspector's gaze narrowed. She laughed it off, snatching the ring from the floor, but the crack in her mask showed. The clock on the wall read 8:35. I could feel time sliding faster now, every tick sharper. The inspector sipped his drink, pretending to enjoy the brass, but his eyes kept flicking toward the door as though waiting for reinforcements. The coated sheet in my pocket felt heavier, as if daring me to choose, confront him now, or let the minutes squeeze tighter around us. We fled to the back room as the crowd roared for an encore. The door shut against the noise, leaving us in heavy silence, broken only by the hiss of a leaking keg. Clara slammed the ledger slip on the table. "Whose handwriting is that?" Her eyes darted between me and Ruth, suspicion sharper than glass. "You think it's me?" I snapped. "I've been behind the bar all night." "And I've been counting every coin," Ruth shot back. Her voice cracked. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. The fight boiled over, words jagged and too close to the truth we never said aloud. Clara's hand shook as she clutched her ring. "You want honesty? Fine. That crest, it's from my wife's family. Yes, wife. Hidden in plain sight." She bit the word, like it might burn. "And if the inspector finds out?" I couldn't help it. "You think you're the only one hiding someone? Ruth's not just running numbers. She's shielding the man she married across color lines. And me?" My throat locked, but I forced it open. "I've married a girl from uptown. Name signed in church but erased from paper. That's why this bar matters. It's the only place we get to exist." The keg hissed louder, like it could mock us. None of us spoke until a faint tune drifted through the wall, one of the band's singers humming something off script. The melody snagged on me. It wasn't from tonight's set list. The words, faint but clear. "Trust breaks. Trust bleeds." It sounded like a signal. My chest hollowed. Were the musicians the leak? Panic surged. We couldn't risk it. Ruth grabbed the incriminating ledger book, its spine damp from sweat, and flung it into the stove. Flames devoured the pages, ink curling into smoke that filled the room with bitter ash. Proof of our payouts, the very bribes that kept inspectors at bay, vanished in seconds. We'd saved ourselves from one kind of exposure, but we'd killed our shield in the same breath. The clock on the wall outside struck 8:55, the chimes dull through the door. Time was running like spilled gin now, and we were choking on smoke, literal and otherwise. Clara yanked open the door, eyes wet. 5 minutes. We need a plan. Or it's not just the bar they'll take, it's all of us. The raid came in a burst of boots and brass at 8:59. Inspectors poured through the door, their whistles shrill over the trombone's wail. Patrons froze, then scattered like sparks. But the band, God bless them, didn't stop. They played louder, horns shaking the rafters, disguising the shuffle of bodies slipping through side doors. I threw myself into the noise, grabbing a tray and tripping into the nearest officer. Bottles crashed, glass slicing my palm, but his paper scattered, and the crowd roared as if it were all part of the act. Clara stepped forward, dazzling smile plastered. "Gentlemen," she purred, "I confess, we may have served the watered-down gin." Laughter rippled, buying seconds. Ruth shoved the last barrel deeper into the cellar, her arms straining. Then the stove hissed behind me. Amid the ashes of the burned ledger, something pale glowed. I snatched it, a scrap, folded tight, hidden in the binding all along. The ink blurred but legible. Deliveries rerouted, LeBlanc to Thibodeau. The supplier had been bribing the inspector directly, not any of us. The ledger we destroyed had buried the truth, but its ashes spat it back out.
The betrayal wasn't cousin against cousin. It was commerce against blood. And that overheard lyric, in that moment, I understood. It wasn't warning of betrayal by the band. It was a smuggler's distraction tune, a code to cover shifting routes. We'd misread a lifeline as a noose. The officers dragged crates from behind the bar, but found only empties. Our patrons vanished like smoke, our secrets trembling in the silence left behind. By the time the inspector barked his last threat and stormed out, the clock struck 9 with hollow pride. The bar was wounded, but alive. We collapsed into chairs, the band's final notes hanging ghost-like above us. My palm bled onto the wood. Clara's ring glimmered faint in the low light. Ruth's shoulder sagged with exhaustion. None of our marriages were safe anymore, not from each other, not from the world outside. Yet our hands found each other's across the scarred table, fingers clasping tight. The bar smelled of ash and sweat, but also of survival. Smoke curled upward, catching the lamplight, while silence hummed louder than any trombone. We'd chosen not to betray, not to abandon, but to carry each other's truths into whatever came next. And though the night had ended, the clock kept ticking, daring us to face it together.